My name is John Gennaro. I gave the whole resume thing last time, but maybe still worth doing. Oh, cool. My mute button doesn't work anymore. That's lovely. Well, you guys might hear me clear my throat or cough a few times then. Maybe I'll figure out how to mute it on the actual microphone. Despite all of that, am a professional. I am a professional podcast producer, have been for many years. I've worked for NFL Network. I've worked for the Mighty 1090 when it existed. I worked for Yahoo Sports. I've done a lot in the world of sports and podcasts. And right now I have a Substack and I'm messing around with it. And one of the things that I am doing with this is occasionally turning on my microphone and my camera to do kind of live, I don't know, talk about the news type of stuff. But this morning I have a treat for you because I have an actual honest to God take that is bothering me. So we're going to talk a little bit about We're going to talk a little bit about Yu Darvish and the San Diego Padres. I will give you some quick thoughts on the NFL and the Super Bowl, and then we will get the hell out of here. First, you may have realized I kind of warned some people if they were watching previous episodes of this that it was coming. All of the Section 1904 social media channels and the YouTube channel have all been changed to Bandwagon Beach. They are going to be pushing out content from this Substack and from me, um, with the exception of Twitter, which would not allow me to change without paying money, to which I just deleted that account because I don't need Twitter because no one needs Twitter. So, if you see those, don't be surprised. I am trying to put together something that would be a more regular podcast for San Diego sports and culture, San Diegans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When there is a podcast, I will certainly let you guys know. For right now, I'll just be doing these when I feel like it. It'll be available on Substack. It'll be available on YouTube. Tell your friends. Um, And this is going to be a somewhat politically free podcast today. While there is some sort of civil war starting in Minneapolis between a government and its own citizens, we're going to put that on the back burner today. I don't feel like almost crying on camera today, and I don't feel like there's a lot I need to add into the conversation right now. It's kind of a raw nerve, and everyone knows why. I'm sure I'll talk about it at some point this week, but today is not that day because today is a day to be upset with the San Diego Padres and the people that cover them. So, in case you missed it, let's see if I can get my mute button to start working live because I almost just coughed right into the microphone. I was like, no, that would be terrible if that happened. Nope, the app is broken. Fantastic. Oh, it's back. It just lit up. Let's check it out. Cleared my throat. No one heard it. Fantastic. We are back. So to get you up to speed, on I think it was Saturday, Kevin Acee tweets out a story from the San Diego Union Tribune that he himself wrote that was titled, and then sent it out via email, which is why I have a record of it. The title was Padres pitcher Yu Darvish set to retire. This then was picked up by every news organization that covers the Padres. So I saw versions of it on Sports Illustrated, versions of it on CBS, versions of it on ESPN. Yu Darvish retiring and voiding his contract with the San Diego Padres, retiring. He's done. Let's reflect on his career. The Union Tribune posted it with a gallery of Yu Darvish through the years. It was very obviously meant to be a Yu Darvish's retiring story. The problem with that is Yu Darvish is not retiring. And I said as such on Blue Sky, I think when this news came out, that once Darvish went in for the elbow surgery, he was pretty plain, pretty black and white, forward thinking, straight talking about what his plans were. He got the elbow surgery. He was going to rehab the elbow to the point in which he felt like he could pitch. He was going to try out the pitching, see how it felt, see if he could contribute in some way to a major league team like the San Diego Padres, he is under contract with for 3 more seasons. And at that point, if the answer is no, he cannot physically compete with his rebuilt elbow, rebuilt for the second time, I believe. Then he would walk away. Then he would make the decision to retire. That doesn't seem to have changed because Kevin Acee wrote this article, got posted up and picked up everywhere. And then 2 things happened. One, Dennis Lin, a journalist, reached out to Yu Darvish's agent. And the agent said, matter of factly, Yu Darvish is not retiring. As a matter of fact, Yu Darvish has not even agreed to void his contract. It is part of ongoing conversations with the San Diego Padres, which is to say, Kevin got it wrong. And not only did Kevin get it wrong, the reason he got it wrong was because his story about Yu Darvish was not double checked with either Yu Darvish or a person who gets paid what I'm assuming is a handsome bit of money to represent Yu Darvish in these types of situations. What Dennis did there, reaching out to Yu Darvish's agent for a comment, is the bare minimum that we should expect from a local journalist when they get the news from anyone besides the player themselves. If Kevin had gotten this information from Yu Darvish, this is not a problem. The fact that it came out as Yu Darvish is retiring, he's voiding his contract, which we will get into, and then it came out from him, Yu Darvish and his agent, that none of that is actually true. The Union Tribune has left up a fair amount of this article, but they've added to it. I will read you the portion that they've added to it, and then we're going to go back and talk about a previous Kevin Acee article. After the story was posted to the UT's website on Saturday, Darvish posted to social media platform X, formerly Twitter, quote, "You may have seen an article, and although I am leaning towards voiding the contract, there is still a lot that has to be talked over with the Padres, so the finer details are yet to be decided. Also, I am not announcing my retirement yet. Right now, I am fully focused on my rehab for my elbow, and if I get to the point where I can throw again, I will start from scratch again to compete. If once I get to that point, I feel I can't do that, I will announce my retirement," end quote. So it's pretty obvious what this is if you read between the lines. I wrote about this on the Front Row Seat newsletter this morning. I felt like I had to. This is broke team behavior. This is the Padres looking at the money still owed to Yu Darvish, which I'm pulling up, and looking at the tax implications of paying him that money and deciding we can't afford Yu Darvish at 15, 16, 18,000, $18 million against the cap for the next 3 years. Okay, this year, 2026, you are paying for Yu Darvish to rehab his elbow. That has been known since the moment he said his elbow was injured publicly and that he needed to get surgery on it. You knew you were going to be paying him, let's call it $15, $16 million this year to rehab his elbow. And the reason you were doing that is because he had 2 more years, totaling about $30 million after that. About $15 million each, at which point he will be 40 and 41 years old. So what the Padres probably did, I will say probably, I don't know definitively, is they were looking around for a first baseman or another starting pitcher or someone to complete this very incomplete 2026 San Diego Padres roster. And they found someone and they were like, well, we don't have any money to pay you this year. But what if we push some of that money into a future year like they did with Nick Pivetta last year, where he got paid like 4 million last year and he's making like 16 million this year, whatever. I'm throwing numbers out there that are close. And my guess is they wanted to do something like that with somebody, but what they needed to do was get about 15 million off the books next year and maybe even 15 million off the books the following year. And they were like, I know a way to do that. Let's go talk to you. Let's go talk to you and see if he would be open to a buyout. And Yu Darvish probably said, "Hey, you guys want a buyout? I'm more than happy to work with you. You worked with me in 2024 when I had to miss a good chunk of the season to go deal with a personal matter. You stuck with me in 2025 when I was pitching through an elbow injury. Love this organization." He obviously has a nice special relationship with AJ Preller. He said at one point in this AC article that he has a special relationship with Peter Seidler. It seems like he said, "Yeah, I'll work with you guys on this." And someone from the Padres turned around and told AC, probably in response to a question of like, where are you guys going to find the money to complete this roster? Someone probably said, "You is going to void that contract for us. You is going to walk away from that contract." And AC took that to mean he's going to retire because this is a thing that has been asked of you, Darvish, relentlessly. Are you going to retire? Are you going to retire? Now that you're hurt, now that you're out for a year, are you going to retire? And I think he jumped to conclusions a little bit. And he should have double checked. He should have asked the agent at the very least. What Dennis Lin did is the very least of what Kevin did, because otherwise what he is doing is reporting whatever the Padres want him to report. What this story should have been is probably closer to the one that Dennis Lin wrote, which is the Padres are looking for Yu Darvish to void that contract. They have not come to terms on that yet. Keep you posted. So right now, Yu Darvish over the next 3 seasons is due $43 million in cash. He counts for $46 million against the payroll because of taxes and et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter. $43 million in cash is what they're looking to get off the books. And my guess is they will offer him, I mean, just to be fair, uh, that's guaranteed money. He does not need to accept a buyout. So if he assumes that next year he can sign a 2-year, $30 million deal after not pitching for a year, A, he's crazy, which he's not. B, I've seen a lot of people throw out like, Yu Darvish, very honorable, very honorable. And there's talk about that in the AC article. Actually, I said I would go back. Let's go back. So first, I want to take you back to an article that Darren and I talked about over a month ago, written by Kevin AC, titled "Padres Yu Darvish Not Sure If He Will Pitch in the Big Leagues Again." This is the important part. We read this before. I'm reading it again. The surgery rules him out for 2026, a season for which he is scheduled to be paid $16 million. He is due $15 million in both 27 and 28. Those are payroll numbers, not cash numbers. If he retires, at least some of that money is freed up for the Padres, who would welcome the infusion of available funds in their quest to add much-needed starting pitching. So that's him laying out. The Padres would like Yu Darvish to retire because they need that money. Continuing. Darvish, who turned 39 in August, has made more than $220 million in 14 seasons in the Major League. He also played 7 seasons in Japan and is believed to have made several million more in endorsements as one of that country's most revered professional athletes. In 2024, he voluntarily forfeited $4 million by going on the restricted list while attending to a personal matter. He was on the injured list at the time and could have stayed there and been paid. Sources have indicated there could be negotiations regarding a buyout of the money remaining on Darvish's deal. Oh my God. The story hasn't changed. It's been 6 weeks. Like, all morning I've been mad about this, and I'm like, this is just a side effect of the fact that nothing is going on with the San Diego Padres right now. Like, there are a bunch of people who get paid a salary plus benefits to cover what's going on with the San Diego Padres, and they have not had news essentially since the playoffs. Like, they've had news of, like, Dylan Cease signs with the Blue Jays and, like, this Korean infielder's coming over. Maybe he'll make the team, but they haven't had any real news outside of Michael King has decided to come back to the San Diego Padres on a very player-friendly deal in months. And so they're desperate for something. But that thing I just read, that's where things still are. I Sources have indicated there could be negotiations regarding a buyout of the money remaining on Darvish's deal. Nothing has changed since then. That was December 15th. And yet, here's a story now titled Padres pitcher Yu Darvish poised to walk away from his contract. Poised to do so, is he? Considering he has not said he's not doing it. The first line of this article still says Yu Darvish does not plan to pitch again in the major leagues. Again, he released a statement after this article went out saying he'll decide that once his rehab is done, he sees how his elbow feels. Okay. Let's read some more. Darvish missed half the 2024 season due to elbow issues and a personal matter, but came back to pitch exceptionally in the playoffs. True. When he and Padres president of baseball ops A.J. Preller spoke after that season, it was with the understanding that Darvish would likely need elbow surgery at some point. So that's before the 2025 season. Before the 2025 season is what AC is saying here. A.J. Preller and Yu Darvish knew that his elbow was toast and he would need elbow surgery. Darvish said he made it clear at that time he was considering, quote, getting rid of, unquote, his contract. Okay. He attributes that to Yu Darvish. Sure. I haven't seen it, but I don't follow everything. Yu Darvish said he made it clear at that time he was considering getting rid of his contract. I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean, but it apparently means something. Now, a year later, I'm back to reading AC. Darvish and others involved in the process have said some details must be worked out in terms of how much of the remaining money he will forfeit. That is part of the issue with the semantics put forth Saturday by Yu Darvish and his agent, Joel Wolf. In a second post on Twitter, in Japanese this time, keep in mind that Darvish, the language he picks for his tweets is done mindfully. It is specific to the audiences he is trying to reach. Darvish said, this is translated now, discussions with the Padres, the Players Association, and my agent haven't been finalized. He said he plans to continue to rehabilitate and attend a portion of spring training. Okay. Doesn't sound like retirement to me. Doesn't sound like a imminent buyout to me. Quote, his agent, Yu has not made his final decision yet. This is a complicated matter we are still working through. Multiple people familiar with the process said any buyout would involve Darvish giving up the bulk of what he would be owed, and that the Padres are set to realize significant savings over the next 3 years. The money is intended to be used to help make the team better. God, I sure fucking hope so. This is a quote from Yu Darvish last month As far as leaving lots of money, I look at it as that was never mine to begin with, especially considering the money I have not physically earned yet. You could take that statement to mean anything you want to. You could take that statement to mean he's more than happy to give back future money that he's guaranteed because he hasn't earned it with the Padres and would like to earn it somewhere else that actually wants to put him on the field and let him earn it. You could take that to mean he still feels in some way like he's in debt to the Padres for what they did in 2024 with him. I think that would be ridiculous. And I think all this shit that's like Yu Darvish is going to help out the Padres. Yu Darvish is going to do this so that the Padres have money to build a team without him. So that the Padres could get better without him. So that he can go play somewhere else against a team that in theory would occasionally play the Padres that had been made better by Yu Darvish doing this. I think that's a foolish thing to begin with. AC continues. Even as he contemplated this move, again, been made, and Darvish has said he's not making this decision until he's done with his rehab. So I don't know what we're doing, which seemed inevitable for months, he says. And then he links back to the December 15th article, which again, not double months, whatever. Darvish remained a regular presence at Petco Park. He sat in on talks with free agents. He attended the news conference announcing Michael King's contract agreement. Those around Darvish say the trust between the pitcher and Preller has impacted every decision Darvish has made, including the one to retire. A decision he has not made yet. Just being clear, the man has said he has not made that decision to retire, and he has not even yet made the decision to void his contract with the San Diego Padres because they are working out deals of a buyout. That's what this is. It's not a retirement. It's a buyout. It is some broke fucking team behavior. They're going to give him like $20 million to go away because it's cheaper than paying him $43 million over the next 3 years. But here's the part that no one ever talks about. If you are willing to, I'm going to use numbers because they've made up numbers because we don't have them. If you are willing to spend $20 million to make $43 million go away, you know what you're not spending the next 3 years? $43 million. They did this to save money. Now, maybe they think Darvish is done. We can't spend the $43 million on him. What has convinced you that this team right now is willing to hand Darvish a check for like $20 million and be like, go away, void your contract, and then spend an additional 43 to go get someone as good as Darvish was when he signed that contract? What makes you think that the Padres coming out of this would spend more than what they are currently on the hook to spend? I'm not convinced. So to me, this is simply let's get his money that's on the books for this year off the books because, and I'm pretending I'm AJ Preller now, because the big boss man told me that overall payroll has to be at 215 or lower, 240 or lower, and we don't have enough room. But if Darvish signs this, his number comes off the books, and now I have $15 million more dollars to play with this year, and I don't have to worry about next year because I'm not gonna be here. Like stuff like this, where it's, hey, we don't care. We don't care that we could have Yu Darvish for next year and the year after, just as long as we can get him off the books for this year. That is the type of behavior of a GM and a Pobo who is not thinking about the future, and B, a move that a team that is for sale and just trying to get out of here would make, because it makes the books look cleaner than they are. No one's going to look and be like, really? $43 million for 40-year-old Yu Darvish coming off a second elbow surgery? So I want to be clear. Yu Darvish is in the right here. And there's really nothing wrong with the Padres going to him and offering him a buyout. You could argue it's the right thing to do, but this is going to result in there being less money spent on the players on the field next year and the following year. I mean, that one's easy to argue. I just did it. But more important than that, for the Padres to hand this to Kevin Acee, knowing that the deal has not been confirmed yet, that a number has not even been agreed to yet, and for him to run it without checking with anybody else, I'm not I am never going to call for someone to lose their job. Kevin does not deserve to lose his job over this. But he deserves criticism for this. And in the future, when he gets information from the team, he should remember how embarrassing this is. He should remember that one time that the Padres gave him information and he ran to print it so fast that everyone realized that A, you're not doing real journalism, and B, you're just printing whatever the Padres are giving you, which means C, you are not an unbiased truth teller of the news around the team. You are acting as the team's mouthpiece, essentially. That's terrible, man. That's bad. He should remember this for a very long time and change how he acts when it comes to news that he's able to get, scoops that he's able to get around the San Diego Padres. Because this is journalistic malpractice, and this should be a pretty big hit to his reputation, which is not stellar to begin with. And I don't really know what to do. Like, again, Kevin Acee is paid to report on the San Diego Padres. I get that. And I get that the last couple months has not really given him anything to write about. And he's not gonna get into the world of speculation and fake trades. He can leave that to the bloggers and the podcasters like myself. But this is embarrassing for the Padres. It's embarrassing that they it's really hard to not compare this to the Mike Schilt situation where Mike Schilt was like, "I'm retiring from the Padres and getting out of here." And the Padres coming out and being like, "Oh, Yu Darvish is retiring." And he's like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm not retiring. You're broke. Those are different things." And the Padres would love for this story to be that Yu Darvish is just done playing baseball and he has retired from the San Diego Padres. And maybe he hangs around as a special assistant or a coach or a guy that you just see wandering around at spring training every year. They would love for that to happen. But for that to happen, Yu Darvish has to retire. And that's not what's happening here. And the Padres wanted it to be one way, but in fact, it is the other way. I would also like to mention his contract, which at one point we were like, God, this contract. It's really not that bad anymore. Like, okay, he is in the 2026 season, he is the one, two, three, four, five, sixth highest paid player on the team. He's making less money this year than Joe Musgrove and significantly less money than Michael King and only really a little bit more money than Nick Pivetta. That, to me, like, that's the going rate for a starting pitcher. So, again, this seems to me like one of those things that they're trying to do the what they did with Pivetta last year, where they're like, "We'll do a small contract this year, and it'll step up to something bigger next year." And they needed some money cleared off the books so that they could do that, but this looks bad for the Padres. It looks bad for Kevin Acee, and Yu Darvish is probably too nice of a guy to do anything with it, but it's embarrassing all the way around. Everyone should be embarrassed, and the fans should be furious, and as a matter of fact, do you think this is what Manny Machado signed up for when he signed his initial contract to come to the San Diego Padres or the extension? Do you think this is what Fernando Tatis Jr. signed up for? I mean, Jackson Merrill's a young kid. He got paid probably before he necessarily deserved it, so he's probably just happy being a major league kid who makes a lot of money, but that'll only go so long. And Xander Bogaerts signed a contract that was, probably well north of what his actual value was, so sometimes that can backfire in your face like this. But do you think Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado signed away the prime of their career to be here on the San Diego Padres, for the team to literally say, for us to afford to build a complete team this year, we need one of the faces of our franchise to take a buyout? And as a matter of fact, not just take a buyout, it would really benefit us if he just retired so that it didn't look like we were asking him to take a buyout. I don't think so. And I do think that these things, like I know AJ Preller loves to scout talent, develop talent, trade talent, to get more talent. I know he loves building a roster. I don't think he loves these payroll games where it's we have to convince you to retire so we have enough money to go and sign Paul Goldschmidt or whoever. I don't think he likes this stuff. And I think part of what worked with him and Peter Seidler in that partnership was that Peter was unafraid to spend money if you could prove that it was worth it, that it would be worth it. And AJ Preller likes to spend Peter's money, and he could convince Peter that it was worth it. That was the working dynamic they had. And now they are in a situation where AJ Preller can't sign a first baseman, of which the team doesn't have one, until he convinces a player that he was at least partially responsible for bringing him to the Texas Rangers, traded for him to bring him to the San Diego Padres, signed him to a deal that was supposed to end his contract with the San Diego Padres, has a close relationship with him, and he has to go to him and say, you have to retire so I could sign a first baseman. I don't think AJ Preller likes this shit. And I talked about this with Darren a little bit. I've been talking about this for a while. I talked about it with Craig Elson on Padres Hot Tub years ago. Peter Seidler and AJ Preller had this thing where they wanted the Padres to be best in class. They wanted players to want to come to the San Diego Padres because they knew they were going to be treated well. The facilities were going to be great. And the ownership was always going to be doing whatever it took to try and win. That's not what this is anymore. It's just not. The ownership is not willing to do whatever it takes to win anymore. And having the team mouthpiece, which is what I'm going to call Kevin Acee right now, put out shit like Darvish has made more than $220 million in 14 seasons in the major leagues. He also played 7 seasons in Japan and is believed to have made several million more in endorsements as one of the country's most revered professional athletes. That at the time on December 15th, that felt like Kevin Acee going, come on, Darvish, help out the team here. Come on. They've done so much for you. You've made so much money. Why do you need more? It's selfish of you to want more. And the problem with this second story now is that it becomes very obvious to Yu Darvish, to his agent, to other agents, to other players, that if Kevin Acee says it, it probably came from the team. Now it feels like a bullying campaign. Now it feels like they are treating Yu Darvish shitty and trying to win the public PR battle against one of their own players that they themselves traded for and offered a long-term deal to try and save enough money to be able to afford a first baseman or a starting pitcher to replace him or something. And that does the opposite. That does not make you seem best in class. That does not make the players want to come here. I know they still have their track record. AJ Preller's never taken a single player to arbitration. That is not an arbitrary fact. That is a thing that the Padres do to try and create better relations between themselves and baseball players in general, Major League Baseball players in general. Hey, We draft you, you come up with us, you sign with us with arbitration years left. We are not going to fight you on arbitration. We will not. That is not a thing you're gonna have to worry about with us. That's great. But sign a deal with us for big money. We might go to the press and use our guys to bury you and to make you seem selfish in the eyes of San Diego Padre fans to convince you to retire or to take a buyout because you don't want this. You don't want this public fight. We can control what the fans think of you. We have our guys who are going to do it. It's just bad. It's just really shitty and bad. And it's pissing me off. And it's not just because Yu Darvish has been one of my favorite players for a very long time. Was my wife's favorite player when she was a Texas Rangers fan before she moved back to San Diego. Is one of my daughter's favorite players. There is a Yu Darvish bobblehead in my daughter's room on her dresser. Like I love the man as a pitcher and a player, and I think he's done great stuff outside of pitching as well. Both as an advocate for rescuing dogs, and as a model and a mentor to players in his situation that have come over from Japan, especially at a young age, that need some of that guidance. I think he's been awesome, and I think the whole tenor of the San Diego Padres and what Peter Seidler was building. This is shit. Me and Darren were talking about this a year ago, where the Padres are like, "Oh, we're doing it for Peter, and it's Peter's legacy and continuing Peter's legacy," and then just doing shit that Peter Seidler himself, I think, would be really fucking embarrassed to be doing. I mean, he just wouldn't do it because the thought of it would be embarrassing. And that's where we are. And I think AJ Preller is now doing stuff that he's like, why the fuck do I want to be here doing this shit when I can find another team that's not broke and begging for an owner to come in and cover the debts that this ownership can't handle. Like, it is a terrible, terrible situation that the San Diego Padres have found themselves in. And last year wasn't even a bad year. Like, it was a pretty good year. All of it has collapsed. All of it. The owner situation is uncertain. The managerial situation is uncertain. Whether or not the roster is good enough to compete is now uncertain because of the players they have left and been unable to replace. And apparently now this all rests on the grace of Yu Darvish accepting a buyout that's team friendly. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And I'm gonna quote my buddy H.J. Preller from the Gwintelligence podcast. Padre fans deserve better than this shit because they have been the one buying the tickets, selling out all the games. I think the Padres finished second in total attendance in Major League Baseball this year, and they've essentially been in that top three for years now, despite the fact that the ticket prices keep going up and the concession prices keep going up and the parking prices keep going up. They are raking in more and more and more money, not to mention the concerts, the real estate investments, all that stuff. We have done our part. They did not have a plan for when Peter was going to die. And as a result of that, Yu Darvish and us are getting a little screwed here. And I just want someone to give it to me straight. If we're getting screwed, if Yu Darvish is getting screwed, I would much rather read an article about how the Padres are screwing Yu Darvish and how it's bad for the San Diego Padres fans and organization than one that tries to blame him for pitching through an elbow injury all year that apparently the GM and president of baseball operations knew about before the year even began. Or to punish him for the money he's made in the past because he was a really good pitcher. I don't know. It's bullshit. I'm done with baseball. I'm going to give you a few minutes on the NFL because this was my weekend. My weekend was spent trying to not stare at my phone, not stare at the news coming out of Minnesota, and occasionally on Sunday, being able to put my phone down and lose myself in the game of football American football, the National Football League. And look, the first game was awful, but it was entertaining to watch, I think, just because of the snow and the wind and the blizzard and whatever. Do I like games in the elements? Yeah, it's different. It's fun. You really doesn't happen unless it's in the playoffs, which makes it better, but that game sucked. That game really sucked. Uh, from a football stance. Second game was pretty good, but all season long, I was saying this, Darren was saying this when we brought it up on the Section 1904 show, that this didn't feel like a great NFL season. Didn't feel like there was a dominant team or two. Didn't feel like there was any stars having particularly great years. As a matter of fact, it felt like the year of teams figuring out that spending money on a quarterback, like a lot of money on a quarterback, which is what you have to spend to have a quarterback these days that is really good, is probably a bad idea. So, 1 and 2 in the AFC, the Broncos and Patriots, they faced off, and it was a quarterback on a rookie deal versus a quarterback on a rookie deal. In the NFC, you had the number 1 team going against the number 5 team. And I would just like to point out, the number 1 team is paying Sam Darnold, I think $14 million to be their quarterback this year. If you look, like, the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL get paid like $45-50 million a year. So $14 million in your quarterback is quite the steal. The Bears have a quarterback on a rookie deal. The Eagles, because their quarterback is Jalen Hurts, now he reached the end of his rookie deal. They had to pay him, they decided. And because he's Jalen Hurts and he's not Matt Stafford, they're paying him about $30 million a year instead of like 50, 60, $70 million, which is what Patrick Mahomes is going to make next year, by the way. Bryce Young on the Panthers, who they were number 4, also on his rookie deal. So it is almost, the NFL has almost turned completely on its own head. The parity thing has turned into, you need to find a way to differentiate your team. And everyone trying to get the best quarterback and trying to build a team around that quarterback, uh, I, I, I'm not going to say it can't work, but I think its time has come and passed. I think what you're seeing now is teams that are trying to get quarterbacks at, in the 10 to 20 range as far as what they're getting paid, or even still on their rookie deal, and then using the spare money to build a dominant defense and a dominant offensive line, and maybe go out and get that, 1B receiver, because defenses can't double cover more than one receiver at a time, which is what the Rams did. I don't know what Matt Stafford makes this year. It's a good question that I should have looked up, and I'll look it up now. Matt Stafford signed a 2-year, $84 million contract. So from a cap hit perspective, he's one of those top 10 quarterbacks. His cap hit is like 47, 48 million this last year, and it's going to be the same the year after, which is next year. And then after that, his contract is void. He becomes a free agent at 39 years old, assuming he is still playing in the NFL. I feel like this is going to be a bit of a trend, and it's not a great one for the NFL, which is the face of your franchise is often your quarterback. If it's not your quarterback, it's often your running back. We had already reached the point where teams had realized if they just spend their money on an offensive line and a quarterback, they could save money and put in like a pretty average running back and get almost the same output that they would with a great running back. Now I feel like we're reaching that point with quarterbacks too, where they're like, hey, if we have a great offensive line, a great defense, all we need from our quarterback is someone who doesn't make stupid decisions and occasionally can make a play, not someone who needs to like control the game in the way that Patrick Mahomes does or Lamar Jackson does, or, going back in the day, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning did. That is a problem for 2026 NFL fans that really want star players and aren't turned on by a New England, Seattle Super Bowl that's essentially like, here's 2 great defenses and 2 great offensive lines and 2 great coaches and 2 quarterbacks that nobody trusts. Like, that's not a sexy sell, but I think that's where we're headed, and I think you're going to see almost back. We went through a little bit of this when the Seahawks were going to the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson on his rookie deal, and everyone was like, "This is the thing: get a quarterback on his rookie deal, and it gives you more money to put in the rest of your roster." And then we kind of got away from that a little bit, and I think it's starting to come back as people are seeing, Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl, and Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl, and Drake May in the Super Bowl, and Bo Nix like almost in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy being the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers and being successful. I think the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, I'll throw Justin Herbert in there. These offenses where it's like we have our quarterback and we pay him a lot of money and he's going to carry the offense. I think because of the salary cap in the NFL, and this is the thing that we'll eventually probably have to talk about with Major League Baseball as well. Because of the salary cap in the NFL, if you are paying the salary cap in the NFL is $295 million. Next year, the Chiefs pay Patrick Mahomes like $76 million. That is almost a third. No, it's a quarter. That's 25%, just about, of your salary cap, your total salary cap that has to pay for 53 players on the roster. 53. Imagine if one of them is making a quarter of that, how much worse the rest of your team has to be. How much you cannot compete with free agents at almost any position. The Chargers left town, and I was like, I'm not a Chargers fan anymore. And I've rooted for the Dallas Cowboys. And this year I've gotten a little bit back on the Chargers. That's a whole other conversation that I'll probably get into here at some point. But I've rooted for the Chargers and people, or the Cowboys, and people are like, what's wrong with the Cowboys? Like, Dak's really good, CeeDee Lamb's really good, and they always seem to have good players, and Micah Parsons was really good, and Trevon Diggs was really good. Like, why are they good? Because their offensive line stinks, because they don't have any money to pay these guys, because their defensive line stinks. DeMarcus Lawrence, who was making big plays for the Seahawks, he was on the Cowboys. They could not afford to keep him because Dak makes like $70 million a year. And CeeDee Lamb is, I think, the top paid wide receiver, one of the 2 top paid wide receivers in football. And George Pickens is about to be one of the top paid wide receivers in football as well, probably with the Dallas Cowboys. And Micah Parsons wanted to be one of the highest paid pass rushers. And the Cowboys were like, dude, we can't, like, if we have one of the highest paid players at their position, 5 or 6 different positions all over the field, everyone else has to essentially be making a minimum or be on a rookie deal. And it's just not possible. And I think the NFL, this Super Bowl is going to be part of the reason that the NFL starts moving in that. And another one is like the Indianapolis Colts, which, yeah, like it fell apart at the end. But the Indianapolis Colts for the first half of this season and maybe further were one of the 2 best teams in the league. And they had a Daniel Jones who they scooped up off literally the trash pile. Like last year, the New York Giants gave up on him. They cut him. The Minnesota Vikings signed him to their practice squad, and I don't think he ever made it off there. And the Colts were like, here, starting quarterback, go. And they were amazing until he got hurt, which is part of the problem with Daniel Jones is he runs a lot and he gets hit a lot and he gets hurt. You're wondering why the Detroit Lions took a step back? It's not because Ben Johnson went to Chicago, although I'm sure that's a part of it. A big reason is because all of a sudden Jared Goff is like a $60 million a year quarterback. Jared Goff, who was kind of like the model of like, hey, he's not great, but he's not going to make a mistake, and he'll make all the plays that you need him to make. You just need to have a great offensive line in front of him, great playmakers around him, and a great defense on the other side of the ball. All those things are harder to pay for when your quarterback is making like $50-60 million. So I think this is a trend that's going to start in football. I think a couple teams that are locked into these long-term deals that pay their quarterback a lot of money, like the Bills, like the Chargers, like the Chiefs, I mean, eventually, like the Bears, probably, like the Rams a little bit, maybe the Packers, maybe the Ravens, maybe the Bengals. I think these teams are going to struggle to be balanced enough to win games in January, be balanced enough to win playoff games. I think you're gonna start seeing, I mean, the NFL was already boring because it was parity and everyone had a chance. But now I think it's also just gonna get boring because I think it's gonna be defenses and offensive lines, against, like, who really cares if the quarterback makes a big play as long as they don't make a bad one. Bill Belichick probably loves this style of football. Anyway, my prediction, I used to be the like, "Oh, let's wait the week and a half till it gets closer to the Super Bowl, and then I'll give you my prediction," but my prediction's not gonna change. The Seahawks are a much better team than the New England Patriots, and I know it feels a little 2001 to be like, "Oh, you can count out the Patriots," and then have them show up and be the I just I'm not a big believer in the Patriots. The Seahawks look great. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed win. I'm not gonna put money on it, but I think they win, and I don't even think it's really an entertaining game as much as the NFL and the refs and what have you, I think have done a pretty good job of keeping the Super Bowl pretty even games, in the last 10 or 15 years. I think this is gonna be one of the rare, pretty bad ones, and I don't think we're gonna walk out of it with any newfound respect for any sort of quarterback or playmate. I think it's just gonna be like, "Well, the Seahawks were the better team." Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, that's probably enough of me. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Go read the Front Row Seat newsletter. I put it out on Bandwagon Beach, which as of right now is on Substack, every weekday morning that's not a holiday. Um, Subscribe to get that and other content like this live video podcast, which I guess eventually will be a not live video podcast. Get it sent straight to your email inbox. All you have to do is go to bandwagonbeach.com and subscribe. It is free. All I need from you is your email address. That's enough of me. I will probably be back at some time later this week to hopefully talk about things that matter more. Until then, goodbye.